Every once in a while, a game comes along that is magical in its simplicity, inspiring the imagination of the player without burdening them with complex mechanics. It's rare to see all of the right ingredients come together to create this kind of experience, but when they do, it's a glorious reminder of why we play video games in the first place. As technology has pushed forward, games have gotten better at stimulating strong emotions, happiness, anger, sadness, adrenaline. But mostly we play video games because we want to have fun. The Floor is Jelly is a joyful, beautiful, and perpetually entertaining experience that will harken back to the days where you sat mystified by the sprites on your television screen. It has that unspeakable quality that transforms a good game into a great game, and it's almost certainly the best platformer I've played all year. The game posits a question that's right there in its title. What if the entire surface of the world was bouncy and gelatinous? How would it impact our ability to run and jump and move effectively? And what kind of trouble could we get into in a landscape filled with jello? It's a silly and surreal concept, but the answers to these questions are more interesting than you might suspect. To solve the puzzles of The Floor is Jelly, you have to learn how to interact with this alien environment in ways you wouldn't expect in other games. You might get stuck to the floor if you land too hard, or you might get thrown asunder off a platform if you don't time your jump correctly. When you move, the world moves beneath you, and early on, you'll find yourself in wonder and awe of these new physics. But soon you'll realize that the real danger and challenge is the world itself. There are no real enemies in The Floor is Jelly, but that doesn't mean it's an entirely peaceful experience. In fact, you'll die a lot in this game, but you'll have a good time doing it, and you'll learn from your mistakes. Even as you gain more experience, you'll run across obstacles that will stump you from time to time, if only because of the strangeness of the whole affair. But games are at their best when they show us a new way to look at the world, even if that world is entirely implausible. The Floor is Jelly unlocks parts of your brain that you've never thought to use before. And somehow it does this without ever falling into the problem that many other platformers face. It never becomes frustrating. The level design is nearly impeccable, and it's structured in a way that difficulty only leaps by 1 or 2 steps at a time. It gives you a vast education of its mechanics before it throws you into its more complex stages. Somehow, The Floor is Jelly does this without ever feeling forced or railroady. It's a gentle and pleasant curve, 2 words that you could use to describe the game as a whole. With a strikingly colorful art style and a luxurious soundtrack by Disasterpeace, The Floor is Jelly is a relaxing experience. It's peaceful and meditative. Even with a death count that could rival Super Meat Boy, it's easy to throw on some headphones and get lost in this crazy world. Still, The Floor is Jelly is not without its, albeit minor, flaws. Frankly, the keyboard controls leave something to be desired. They do their job, but small inaccuracies can add up to be a little bit frustrating. It doesn't help that the game does very little to prepare you early on. There's no tutorial. You really learn by trial and error. While I found this refreshing in an industry obsessed with tutorials, I'm sure that some gamers are going to be put off by this. Ultimately, what The Floor is Jelly needs most is controller support. When I'm playing a platformer, I really need that old school simplicity of a controller in my hand. Hopefully, this solution will come in the form of an update, and my concerns will be assuaged. But for now, I'm just having too much fun with this game to be terribly critical. The Floor is Jelly is a quiet game that hasn't been getting a lot of press, but it really deserves your attention. The game manages to reinvent the platforming wheel with a little bit of jiggle and a little bit of jump. We are giving The Floor is Jelly 9 Jello molds out of 10.